Master Dwalkul tells us that knowledge itself is that which knows its own ends and works towards those ends through a process of experiment. Therefore, we experiment in group formation. Expectation. We study the effects as individuals and in group. Experience. We note those effects in our experience, and then proceed with examination of that experience and the effects, and eventually achieve what is called exaltation, which produces a final exit. Words such as these, he says, are synthetic symbols, conveying a cosmic story in terms of constructive brevity. Knowledge, love, and sacrifice are inextricably one in synthesis on the causal level, exemplified through the vortices or petals of the egoic lotus, also the soul vehicle. We gather today to consider in silence the glamour that we will focus on, the group glamour of spiritual pride in its many expressions, including spiritual ambition, and how this glamour impacts your life and group relationships. Master DK also tells us in Glamour, a World Problem, the disciple must relinquish all sense of tension or of strain and must learn to work with pure faith and love. The less one feels and the less one is preoccupied with one's own feelings or sense of achievement or of non-achievement, the more probable it will be that the work will proceed with effectiveness and the glamour be slowly dispelled. In this work, there is no haste. That which is very ancient cannot be immediately dispelled, no matter how good the intention or how accurate may be the grasp of the needed technique. We are told that group unity is not dependent upon personal sympathy, personal liking and understanding, as it may exist between the group members, but upon capacity to absorb and assimilate, to lift, to change, and to transmute those units which seem at first to be uncongenial or even unsuitable from a limited point of view of the group member. This is oft overlooked, but upon the capacity to do this depends much of group success. When a group cannot yet be depended upon to do this necessary absorption, the apparent rejection of certain people is not the fault of those people, but that of the group, which is not yet integrated enough or unified enough to assimilate certain types of character and certain tendencies. The recognition of this should be fruitful in the preservation of much needed humility. You are being tendered another opportunity. He goes on in talking and giving instructions to his disciples to say, I would ask you to remember this and to endeavor, in relation to this new experiment, to cultivate from the very start a humble spirit and the priceless gift of silence. So having, as a group, considered the glamour of criticism, judgment, and blame as a group, we're beginning to set the tone for this expansion of our group work with a humble spirit and the priceless gift of silence. In his instructions, he goes on to say, in order to make the first step towards united group activity along this line of service, which for us will be eventually to work on world glamour, We are given a formula or group ritual which, if employed by those whose lives are relatively free from glamour, who are realists, and who are recognized by the group as thus relatively free, and who are animated by good intent, will do much to bring to an end certain aspects of the world glamour. Their effort, combined with that of similar groups, will so weaken the power of these ancient glamours that the day of clarification will eventually come. So let us set our minds, hearts, and intelligence toward this purpose of eventually working together on world glamour. Today, we'll consider this expansive glamour, group glamour of pride, which includes the pride that evolves from the glamour of destiny, the pride that evolves from the glamour of self-assurance, the pride that evolves from the glamour of devotion, and the pride of intellect. Before we begin, let us align as soul and as a group and see our group approaching Master Dwalkul's study, integrating soul and personality. Visualize, see the soul and personality as a unit. This is brought about by the dedication of the personality to the soul and its acceptance by the soul. These two lines of thinking, alignment of the three lower bodies as an integrated personality and soul personality integration, produce a field of magnetic thought and realization in which all the work is done. Experience that field. Imaginatively, we face our group members eye to eye and establish a soul-to-soul connection in silence, withdrawing from personal and world affairs and centering on the work to be done, setting up a unified magnetic field of positive, receptive activity. Breathing in effortlessly and easily, we move together imaginatively through the field of lotus blossoms that line the path toward Master Dwalkul's study. We pause at the ivory door, which opens as the Master greets us and invites us in for our contemplative approach into the study and dissipation of glamour, as individuals and as group, supported by this gathering of disciples in training. We stand around the Master and see three windows, imaginatively filled with light. We stand in silence, seeing the Master turn and face the east, and together we enter into this point of light. We enter into a beam of directed, focused light that grows and expands, revealing a greater light and illumining the way to the center of the light, directing our way. And we sound together as one. I am the soul. I am light divine. I am love. I am will. I am fixed design. And with that soul light radiating throughout your aura, as the primary force, unite with the group soul. Assuming the altitude as well as the attitude of the observer, using the sign of the cross of divinity. This cross, the great symbol of light and of consciousness, signifying the vertical light and the horizontal light, the power of attraction and the power of radiation, soul life and service. Together, let us sound the protective formula. As the soul, we work in light, and darkness cannot touch us. We take our stand within the light. We work, and from that point, we never move. Using this formula for the dissipation of group glamour, we are completing the preparatory stages. We've recognized the glamour to be dissipated. We are embodying our willingness to cooperate with the soul in physical, astral, and mental ways in order to aid us in the more technical work. Ponder on the completion of this preparation and the implications in your life. With the reflection and contemplation that we have accomplished over time as a group, we will proceed through the next stages more rapidly. We recognize ways in which this group glamour of pride, spiritual ambition, in all its manifestations, affects the daily life in all relationships and all group relationships, including hindering the manifestation of group purpose and limiting effective service. In the coming month, you might consider what additional glamours are related or part of this glamour of spiritual ambition in group formation. Is there the glamour of arrogance? Is there the glamour of withdrawal from service when it is the sole service that is required? Is it pride in one's own conclusions or accomplishments? Superiority in the place on the path in comparison to others? Self-satisfaction in comparison to others? What other distortions come to mind as you practice in the coming days? We complete the 3 stages of focusing of the light rapidly and with ease, focusing the light of the mind and the light of matter in the mental vehicle by a process of lifting up and of blending and fusing, employing and using the creative imagination. We now carry this forward as a group, each member making their contribution and consciously attempting to visualize the process of blending the triple light which each of us contributes into one sphere of light. We do this by meditating on soul light, bringing about the fusion of the light of matter, that is the light in the atoms of the brain, the light of the mind, and the light of the soul upon the mental plane. We will pause here. Create as vivid and dynamic a visualization as you can, knowing this will grow over time and the contribution of each group member will grow and expand over time. The retained light and power combined with the dual light of the personality, focused as we know on the mental plane, is seen generating an intense light, which is visualized as a searchlight of great brilliance and strength. It must be seen as a sphere of vivid, brilliant light, but not yet radiating out or projecting outwards. Realizing the 3 lights as one unified light, a searchlight, ready to be turned in the needed direction, we say in unison, the light is one, and in that light shall we see light. This is the light that turns the darkness into day. We sound the Om, both as the fusion and the sphere of action take on greater brilliance and intensity. The Om signifying the sounding of the group soul, the realized unity of the souls of all the group members. Oh. We sound the Om as the soul on the mental plane. Oh. And finally, we sound the Om as the soul ready to function as light bearer and distributor of light upon the astral plane. Oh. These are symbolic ways of registering the inner reality and are our attempt to externalize force, serving to keep us at a point of tension. We do not attribute undue power to the form aspect of this simple ritual, but this aids us in focusing our attention in the world of meaning and the subjective spiritual activity. When this active visualization is sensed as satisfactorily accomplished, particularly when you are using the formula on your own, you pause so we visualize that all the will that one has is focused behind the light, and that is what creates the fusion of the three lights, what Patanjali calls the mind held steady in the light. This use of the will, soul, personality will, is dynamic, but still at this stage quiescent and not yet magnetic or radiatory. When this is achieved, together and in vocal unison, we sound the mantra of light. As we say this mantra, we visualize the turning of the great searchlight, which we have jointly created by our unified light, onto the glamour to be dissipated on the astral plane. Holding the light steady and realizing mentally the work of dissipation it is intended to do by this act of direction. Radiance we are and power. We stand forever with our hands stretched out, linking the heavens and the earth, the inner world of meaning and the subtle world of glamour. We reach into the light and bring it down to meet the need. We reach into the silent place and bring from thence the gift of understanding. Thus, with the light, we work and turn the darkness into day. In the next process, the glamour to be dissipated and the searchlight of the mind are brought into relationship by the power of thought. The glamour and its quality and the searchlight and its power are recognized to be as they are, and the effect or effects to be brought about by that relationship are carefully thought out. This must be done in such a way that the mind process, light, and power will not strengthen the already powerful glamour. It must be done in such a way that at the close of the process, the glamour will be appreciably weakened and eventually dissipated. Master DK's words. This is an important realization. So let us proceed in using this power of thought, having, as far as possible, achieved the needed concentration, realization, and relationship. Then, by the act of the will and of the creative imagination, we turn on the searchlight and see the vivid beam of light stream forth and pierce the glamour. Visualize a broad, brilliant beam pouring forth from the illumined mind onto the astral plane. Believe that this is so. We pause for a few minutes as the group attempts to throw behind the searchlight the united, directed, and dynamic will or intent. This carries along the projected beam of light the destructive quality of the spiritual will, destructive to all that hinders the manifestation of divinity. This we do by attaining a united point of tension and the dedication of the individual and the group will to the will of God. This act of will is carried on by each member of the group silently and with a deep realization that all are thus accepted and that it is the group will which is being silently focused. Then together we say, with power upon its beam, the light is focused on the goal. Next, through the active affirmation, which is the important and most difficult phase of the work, we name the glamour and then in silence see the process of dissipation. The process is aided by saying with tension and inaudibly, the power of the light prevents the appearance of the glamour of pride and spiritual ambition. The power of the light negates the quality of the glamour of pride and of spiritual ambition from affecting me and affecting our group. The power of the light destroys the life behind the glamour of pride and spiritual ambition. With this affirmation of power and purpose, from this point of tension, the mind held in steadiness and with positive, we visualize the act of penetration, the gradual dissipation and dispersal of the glamour by the penetration of the light into its darkness. We endeavor in silence to see it disintegrating and the reality emerging. doing this by an effort of the creative imagination. Each of us will do this in our own way and according to our understanding and capacity. Again, sound the sacred word in the act of penetration from the highest point, as the light makes a definite impact upon the glamour, as the light penetrates the glamour and is absorbed by it, and as the light dissipates the glamour slowly. As time elapses, the glamour will never again be so powerful and will eventually disappear altogether. Then follows the group withdrawal of the consciousness from the astral plane in the world of glamour. We refocus our attention, first of all, on the mental plane. And then on the soul, relinquishing all thought of the glamour, knowing that work has been successfully carried forward. And we reorganize ourselves as a group in relation to the kingdom of souls and to each other. Occultly speaking, the searchlight of the soul is shut off. This completes the act of withdrawal. The Om is then sounded in group formation. Then each of us, after the recording is paused, will sound the Om alone and say, "So let it be, and help me in my own life to end all glamour and untruth." Thank you for your service, and especially those who will join us online using this from our YouTube recording. We will continue today for 30 minutes now on a separate recording to review some of the related teachings from Master Dwell Kul. If you would like to be part of this kind of dialogue and you are listening on YouTube, please put your a comment in the comment section and alert us of your indication of interest either on Mighty Networks or through infoshapingfutures@gmail.com.